Hey all, welcome to Share Trek. This is Raj here. Friends, you must have noticed that we did a Zoom meeting with Jeff Galvin. It was our inaugural Zoom meeting for all the members and Patreons. And Jeff had gladly agreed to inaugurate that by addressing the meeting and answering questions from the audience. But then Jeff said that the rest of the people might feel left out. So he wanted to do a quick question answer session for the rest of you. And those questions are exactly what was asked in the Zoom meeting. So thank you, Jeff, for that. And thanks for taking time on this holiday weekend. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thanks, Raj. Pleasure to be here as usual.
Thank
And
you.
looking forward to our lightning round. We're going to keep it short and
Yes.
punchy. I think this will be, there were some really interesting questions at that session, and I think it would be really fun to cover them quickly just for
Yes.
your whole audience, and happy to do it.
Yeah, let's start off with the first question. What phase is AGT103-T currently in?
Okay, so we have completed a successful phase 1 and an analytical treatment interruption study. So two clinical studies that have shown both safety signal and efficacy signal. And together, they would be roughly equivalent in normal drug development speak to about 2A results, okay? In other words, we're showing some signs of efficacy that should justify a phase 2. Now, why wouldn't we just do a phase 2 right away? Well, the first thing is money. We got to get some dry powder in the bank so we're ready to do this properly. But the second thing is that we can do it more cheaply and quickly by calling it something else. Because we're not going to actually change the drug from phase 1 to phase 2. So we don't necessarily have to make a big application. If it's a small protocol change, we can submit the same IND and call it a phase 1B. So if you see phase 1B out there, think of it as phase 2. There's already efficacy signal. Read our 2 recently published articles online, and that's the phase 1 results and the analytical treatment interruption results. And you tell me what you think when you compare those to the results of other companies that are in phase 2. It's up to the FDA to determine what phase you're in, but I think I can fairly say we've completed a successful phase 1.
Right. So the next question is, when will phase 1B start?
See, then you called it phase 1B right there back to me. So yes, it might be called phase 1B, but let's think of it as sort of our phase 2.
Okay.
We have got the safety data. It's reasonable to put this into 24 more patients. And why would we do that? Because if we can show the same level of effect that we showed in the phase 1, then we might be able to define endpoints for a pivotal study. Might, I say. Remember, the FDA decides everything
Right.
on this stuff, and we have to justify that, their faith in us that we won't hurt anybody. That's critical. But I think that the 24 patients could either be representative of a small phase 2 or a substantial phase 1B. And what we would be looking to do is just to revalidate the results we got already. Because if we can get the same results again, then we think that we have something of value for HIV treatment at a minimum. Now, I haven't answered your question yet, but I think we'll get it going this year.
Okay.
And your listeners can help. You'll tell them how later.
Yes. So the third question, Jeff, is will AGT103-T be a sterilizing cure?
No, it's a very simple answer to that.
Yeah.
Sterilizing cure, for anybody that's not familiar with this term, means that people will have 0 HIV in their body. Okay. But, the Berlin patient, would you have considered him cured? The London patient, the Amsterdam patient, the New York patient, the LA patient. There was one patient out of the Sangamo study. Are they cured? Well, I would say yes, because they never needed to take antiretrovirals again. They couldn't get AIDS, and they weren't contagious. That sounds like a cure to me.
Right.
The side effects of the antiretrovirals and the stigma and all that stuff is like, that's some of the worst part of, living with HIV from what I've heard from people. So I'd call them cured. Every single one of them had HIV in their body still. Not a single one of them had a sterilizing cure. All
Right.
right. It doesn't matter. What matters is, can your body contain the virus with the natural immune response? Can it create an effective immune response against HIV that suppresses it to levels where it doesn't matter? Functional cure. Functional means equivalent to in medical terminology. Okay, so we're not a sterilizing cure. I'm not a big believer that you can even get every copy of HIV out of the body, and I don't think it's necessary. All right. And what we're showing is a lot of evidence that we can harden the immune system against HIV, and we can get it to create a normal immune response against HIV that suppresses or clears HIV over time, in the same way that you do that for any chronic viral infection or many chronic viral infections that we all carry, right? That we're not taking drugs for and we're not experiencing symptoms.
Right. So the next question is, how much will it cost?
Well, about $30 million start to finish. Plus, the company needs to still run. So we got to pay the light bills on top of that, and finance and whatever. So, how much money we'll spend over this next 24 patients and this next clinical study is not a number that I could exactly quote. But I would say that under $30 million, we can do this study, which is a ridiculously small amount of money in drug development. And,
Right.
so I think that we can get this to happen.
And how much will it cost for the individuals who end up buying AGT103 once it's approved?
Well, I can't tell you that because we're still establishing the cost. And, and also pricing is very complex,
Right.
and it varies from country to country. I mean, so it would be a little bit dangerous to the future of the company for me to say too much on this subject, but here's what I will say. I think it'll be cost effective, cost efficient immediately in first world countries. And I apologize because I know that you have a lot of folks that listen to your channel that are in India, and they want to know when they'll be able to buy it. Okay. So here's what I'll say to them is that if this works in first world nations, it's like personal computers. Eventually you will have ones that are way more powerful in your country at a price you can afford. And that's going to happen with gene and cell therapy as well. I think it'll happen faster than cell phones. But it's going to take some time. So people should be patient about that. The pharma economics of this are excellent. And what do I mean by that? What I'm saying is that when you look at the cost of treating HIV over a lifetime, we can cut that cost to payers and society while creating a functional cure benefit to the patient or to the person living with HIV. I hate to even call them patients because quite frankly, remember, living with HIV is just a challenge. Okay. It doesn't make anybody any different than anyone else. Treat your HIV and be normal and have the best life that you can. We all have challenges. I have challenges. So the bottom line is that I try to be very careful to say that people living with HIV, what we want to do is we want to return them to a normal life vis-a-vis the living with HIV.
Right.
They're still going to have to pay the rent. They're still going to have, arguments with their family. They're going to have other challenges in their life. But what I want to remove is the daily reminder, the stigma, and the side effects, and the medicines,
Right.
so people feel normal. And I think that that's possible to do. The pharma economics in the United States, day one, excellent. We can probably cut the cost in half. This is assuming we're successful. We haven't proven out a full functional cure yet. We're just on track for it in my mind. And I think in the opinion of a lot of other people, but that's the goal.
Okay. And then the next question is, can people from Africa, India, Asia, or Middle East volunteer for clinical trials?
It's impractical. And here's what I'd say. So I don't like to say no, but you see, clinical trials happen where the clinical trials happen. All right. So right now we're anticipating 3 sites in California. Now, when we go out there, what are the chances that they don't have 8, sort of participants that would be interested amongst their normal clientele in being in a clinical trial for an HIV cure that has already been shown to be probably safe, right? And maybe effective, right? I think the demand in the United States is going to be huge. And the problem is that if you're in a study, you need to be living near the clinic. So
Yes.
these clinics are going to get their local patients. So unfortunately, the chances of enrolling in that are very tough for people that are not near a clinic.
Okay. So the next question is, will AGT try to get fast track designation from FDA?
Absolutely. I think we deserve it. I think that there are some indications within HIV space, like people who are resistant to antiretroviral therapies, that are even orphan indications. So I
Oh,
want to look at whether we can get orphan status,
orphan drug, yeah,
orphan
ODA.
drug status, right? Accelerated status, breakthrough. There's a lot of things that the FDA does because, of course, their number one responsibility is safety, but their number one concern is, getting solutions to people that need them
Yes,
as well. So, I think the FDA is, just to shout out to them. I think that they've been cooperative. We've been slow just because of our funding
right.
constraints, but I think the FDA, is doing the right things, and they have a lot of programs that we might be eligible for that are designed to accelerate things that that their constituents, the people that are suffering from various diseases out there, need and want desperately.
Right. So the next question is, will AGT collaborate with EBT to come up with a sterilizing cure? This was something which was asked by a subscriber, Mr. Majestic.
Yeah, so I have nothing against collaborating with them. I think they had a teeny little setback recently. I'm not sure. I'm not a giant believer in sterilizing cures because HIV can hide so many places, and we don't even know whether the immune system can get to every place where HIV
Right.
hides. So a low level of HIV may, be something that people just live with, like, low levels of all chronic viral
Yeah,
infections. Yeah, we all
absolutely.
have them. Yeah, if anybody's out there thinking that they're sterilized of anything, uh, they're probably wrong.
Right.
One person once told me, one of my former CSOs told me, the human bloodstream is a sewer. The last thing you want is to ever have anybody else's blood in your body,
Right.
and HIV is only one thing to worry
Exactly.
about.
There's
Yeah,
so many aspects, right?
yeah.
So the next question is, when do you think a functional cure will be available for HIV? And the context of this question is the recent setback for EBT, where they are looking for a new vector which will be more effective. And
Mhm.
also the fact that at our end, we are looking at some financial boost in order to get started with the subsequent clinical trial.
Well, it depends on when we start. So let's say we start this year. We've got about a year of work to get the first data out. And that could be enough data that it could validate our phase 1 results. And we could be talking to the FDA about some limited area of HIV treatment or potentially cure
Right.
that they would support in a pivotal study. So let's say, okay, so I'm going the really optimistic case. So then a year after that, we would actually be in that study, and we would have data out within a year. And if it was a pivotal study, we could actually file a BLA, and you could have it a year after that. So what did I add up? About 4 years.
Yeah.
So, that optimistic would be, 2028 is reasonably optimistic given our current financial constraints.
Right.
EBT, I can't speak for them. I think that was a great experiment. The idea of using CRISPR in vivo is, it's trailblazing, and it just pushes new boundaries. And I was really gratified that the FDA was willing to take that risk, because this is risk. In vivo editing with CRISPR is risky business.
Yes.
Okay, that bodes well for the whole industry. So I
Absolutely.
would say it's essentially positive news for us. Just keep watching our site. We just keep hitting milestone after milestone after milestone. So, if we got super lucky, maybe 2027. Okay. Maybe optimistic is 2028, but can we do it within the decade? If nothing goes wrong, then
Yeah.
it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, so the latest hurdle is just funding. Once the funding is there, I think we can accelerate and aim for 2027 towards the end, or 2028, which is the best case scenario. So, Jeff, that brings us to an end of all the questions. Thank you so much for coming back again for the rest of the ShareTrack audience to recreate what we did in the Zoom members only call, but in a condensed and more specific, crisp manner. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll just tell all the people that are listening that this call, when we did it, I don't know, what was that, like a week and a half ago or something, was an hour and a half. So we just saved you a bunch of time.
Yes.
And you basically heard most everything that they heard. So thanks for tuning in. Raj, thanks as usual for having me on your show. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. And with that, my friends, I'll bring this video to an end. Hope you liked it. And if you have any more questions, you can put it in the comments. Please hit the subscribe button. I'll catch up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.